Welcome back to the deep dive. Whenever there's a massive technological shift, or even a cultural one, it seems, like established institutions, well, they often get caught flat-footed.
Right. They end up reacting to the storm instead of, preparing for it.
Exactly. But as David Swisher points out in his work, the real key isn't just surviving these disruptions. It's more like being a storm chaser. If you can understand where things are headed, you can prepare now and actually thrive later.
Yeah, lean into it.
So our mission today is kind of a shortcut into that thinking. We're doing a deep dive on, well, one of the fastest moving shifts out there, the rise of virtual reality and the metaverse as a genuine space for community, for life, really.
It's happening fast.
It is. And we're unpacking the missional opportunities, some truly astonishing statistics, and the really deep paradigm-shifting theological questions this brings up for the church. And all this insight comes directly from Swisher's analysis in his work, Virtual Presence, Church in the Metaverse, published by Invite Press.
It's a timely piece.
Definitely. So let's maybe ground this first, because the reality of this digital presence, it's maybe best understood through Swisher's own life, his own experiences.
Yeah, that makes sense. He's got this interesting mix, doesn't he? High-tech aptitude, but also this surprising hobby.
Right. The elaborate cake decorating. I mean, a prize-winning 3-tiered wedding cake with a hexagonal bird cage and a marzipan bird that shows a mind that understands building complex, intricate things.
Exactly. Whether it's code or fondant, right? He gets complexity, and that kind of understanding really hit home for him during the 2020 lockdowns. Forced adaptation.
That's right. His daughter's 10th birthday was coming up right in the middle of the pandemic. No physical party possible.
So what did they do?
Well, the solution was this hybrid thing, part remote via Zoom and Roblox, where the kids could connect virtually. But he also sent out little cake kits to all the friends.
Ah, so a physical element, too.
Yeah, so they could participate physically, decorating their own little cakes while being connected through headsets and screens.
Okay, and the key takeaway from that?
Well, here's the insight, and this is crucial for you listening. For those preteens, this whole setup wasn't weird. It wasn't less meaningful.
Right.
They saw it as, and this is his quote, a perfectly normal way to interact with friends. That seamless blending, that's just how it is for them.
Yeah, that acceptance is fundamental to how this next generation sees community. It's not either.
And he saw it again with his sons. 2 teenagers, introverted, more intellectually inclined. After the older one left for college, they didn't just rely on calls.
What do they do? Minecraft.
Exactly. They set up their own dedicated Minecraft server, and they'd spend hours on there, building stuff together, but also just chatting, talking about life, frustrations, everything.
So for them, that Minecraft space wasn't just a game.
Not at all. It was fully part of their lives, a place of, genuine presence and connection.
And Swisher didn't just observe this in his family, right?
Yeah.
He actually spent a lot of time in these platforms academically.
Yeah, which gives him real credibility here. He wasn't just watching, he was participating. Extensive time in different metaverse platforms. He even attended his doctoral classes at Portland Seminary in Second Life, and later one called Spot on 3D.
Wow, actual classes in the metaverse.
Yeah. He describes this virtual classroom, the Spirit Life Cathedral. He said the immersion was undeniable. Realistic stained glass, virtual books, and his avatar, Indiana Jones. With wings.
Okay, that's memorable. Indiana Jones with wings.
A bit surreal, maybe, but the point was the learning, the interaction. That felt completely genuine.
So the individual experience, especially for younger people, is that virtual space can equal real presence, real connection.
Right. So the critical next step, then, is understanding the sheer scale of this reality.
Okay, because if the church is serious about mission, about reaching people, well, you have to look where the people are. And the numbers here are frankly staggering.
Let's hear them.
Okay, take Roblox. As of late 2024, Q4, we're talking 380 million monthly active users.
380 million monthly.
Monthly. But maybe even more important, 79.5 million daily active users. Almost 80 million people showing up every single day.
Wow.
Now, think about the demographics of this digital city. 58% of those users are under 16 years old.
Over half.
Over half. And 42% are under age 13.
Okay.
So here's a question for you, the listener. How many kids under 13 are walking into your physical church building on a typical Sunday?
That's a stark comparison.
It is. This isn't just a game platform. As David Swisher argues, it's a massive, largely unchurched mission field.
And it's not only Roblox, is it? Minecraft is huge, too.
Oh, absolutely. Early 2025 figures showed nearly 1 million people playing Minecraft at any given moment. Over 218 million active players in just a 30-day period.
So these spaces are packed. They're populated.
Fully populated.
Yeah.
And the people filling them, well, it's interesting why they're there. They're often looking for deep connection. You find a lot of atheists, agnostics, unchurched folks, people who are lonely, hurting, maybe looking for an escape, or just
Yeah.
dissatisfied with traditional ways of connecting.
Yeah. Seeking communities somewhere else.
Exactly. They step into these platforms because they're searching for a place where they feel they belong,
Yeah.
without the judgment they might feel or fear in a physical church. It's community, but maybe on their terms.
Which brings us right to the resistance, doesn't it? The skepticism from established church leaders about engaging these digital fields.
Yeah, the pushback is real.
Yeah.
And Swisher makes this fantastic historical connection. He draws a parallel to John Wesley.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Back in the 1700s, Wesley was initially really resistant to the idea of field preaching, preaching outside of a church building.
Right. I remember that. It felt improper to him.
Totally. It was that institutional inertia, the feeling that real ministry has to happen inside consecrated walls, following, quote, decency and order. Wesley himself said he struggled to reconcile myself at first to this strange way. He felt saving souls outside the official church setting was almost a sin.
Almost a sin. Wow. But something changed his mind.
The mission did. He saw George Whitefield drawing these enormous crowds, like 20,000 people out in the open fields. And eventually, Wesley felt compelled to submit, to be, in his words, more vile, and go where the people were.
And he justified it later.
He did. He even challenged his own brother Charles about it, saying basically, God is everywhere, and he can work without them, meaning rites and ceremonies. The method of gathering wasn't the main point anymore.
That's a powerful parallel. So the resistance today is kind of like Wesley's initial hesitation.
Very much so. And Swisher illustrates this really well with a fictional character, Pastor Jeff. It's used throughout the work to show the journey from skepticism to engagement.
Okay, tell us about Pastor Jeff.
Well, in the first scene, Jeff's at a leadership meeting, and they're discussing virtual reality church. The resistance is thick.
What do they say?
You hear things like, virtual reality church, I just don't see how that's real ministry. And then Elder Mark drops the line that sums up the core skepticism. You can't disciple an avatar.
You can't disciple an avatar. That cuts right to it.
It does. But then the story progresses. They actually decide to visit a VR church service, experience it firsthand.
And what happens?
It's an eye-opener. They enter this, surreal-looking virtual sanctuary. They see avatars of all shapes and sizes. But what hits them is the interaction. It wasn't passive. It was high engagement. People were genuinely connecting.
And did specific stories stand out?
Yes, and this is where the mission aspect really hits home for them. They hear testimonies. They meet Maria, who's disabled and homebound. She tells them VR is her only way to experience corporate worship.
Wow. Okay.
Then they see Frank. He's paralyzed in real life. But in the VR sanctuary during worship, his avatar rises, it twirls, it hovers. He's expressing worship in a way his physical body can't.
That's incredibly moving.
It really highlights how the virtual space can actually remove physical barriers to spiritual expression. They also saw a deployed soldier using a real-time prayer circle.
Connecting from overseas.
Yeah, finding genuine community while stationed thousands of miles away. Even Elder Mark, the skeptic, had to admit the sincerity, the depth. It was, quote, surprisingly genuine.
So that experience forces the deeper questions, doesn't it? The theological ones.
Absolutely. If people are having genuine spiritual experiences, what does that mean? Like, what truly constitutes presence in the body of Christ?
If the word ecclesia, church, means assembly or gathering.
Right. Advocates argue that meeting virtually is meeting together. It fulfills Hebrews 10.25, not neglecting to meet together, and Matthew 18.20, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I among them.
And the location isn't the main thing.
Well, think about Jesus and the Samaritan woman in John 4. He basically says the where of worship isn't the issue. It has to be in spirit and truth.
Okay, but that still leaves the big one, the avatar. Can you really disciple a digital representation? Is it real?
That's the core friction point for many. And David J. Swisher offers this really compelling argument rooted in incarnation theology.
Incarnation. How does that connect?
He points to Jesus himself as the ultimate avatar, you could say. He uses the Greek word icon, meaning image or representation, from Colossians 1:15, where Jesus is called the image of the invisible God.
Ah, so Jesus is God represented in a different form without losing his identity.
Exactly. Swisher argues this sets a theological precedent. Representation in an alternate form doesn't automatically mean loss of identity or purpose.
That's an interesting angle.
And there's another layer to this. Jason Poling, another voice in this space, observed something fascinating. He noticed people often hide their real selves in physical church. They put on a front, worry about judgment.
Yeah, that happens.
But paradoxically, in virtual spaces, using an avatar or a screen name, people often reveal more. They're more vulnerable, more honest about their real lives, their struggles, their doubts.
So the anonymity actually allows for more authenticity sometimes.
It seems like it can.
Yeah.
The avatar isn't necessarily a disguise. It can be a safer channel for the true self to come out.
Okay, that makes a certain kind of sense, but it still leaves that really tricky practical question. Sacraments, ordinances, like communion and baptism.
Yeah, this is probably the biggest hurdle for many traditions. If someone finds faith in the metaverse, can they be baptized virtually? Is virtual communion valid?
Where do people land on this?
Well, it really depends on your theology of the sacraments. For traditions that view them primarily as symbolic outward signs of an inward change, like Romans 9 talks about baptism, or Luke 22 for communion as remembrance, then arguably the virtual observance can fulfill the spiritual purpose of declaration and remembrance, even if the physical water or elements aren't shared in the same space.
But what about traditions that believe in, say, a literal physical presence in communion?
For them, virtual communion is likely a non-starter. It just doesn't align theologically. So how do organizations handle this tension?
Yeah, what's the practical approach?
Often it's a hybrid model. Swisher mentions Cornerstone Church in Yuba City as an example. They have a physical campus and a dedicated metaverse pastor.
So they do both.
Right. They strongly encourage real-world baptism and communion when possible.
Yeah.
But they also recognize that for some people, the homebound, like Maria, the geographically distant, the deployed soldier,
Right.
a virtual option is provided. The priority becomes the act of faith, the obedience, rather than insisting on the physical location of the elements or the water above all else.
Okay, so it's about finding ways to include rather than exclude based on circumstance.
That seems to be the driving principle for those engaging faithfully.
So bringing this together for the listener, what's the main takeaway? Pastor Jeff, the fictional pastor, where did he end up?
Well, his conclusion wasn't about abandoning the physical church at all. It was about recognizing the need to add an option, to reach people who are, as he put it, far more comfortable in metaverse spaces.
It's an expansion, not a replacement.
Exactly, an expansion of the mission field. It goes back to that missional imperative, really. Jesus saying in Luke 14, "Go out into the highways and hedges and urge them to come in so that my house may be filled."
And the metaverse is like the modern highways and hedges.
You could certainly see it that way. It's where millions are already gathering, often hurting, searching people, looking for connection, looking for something more.
So if someone's listening and thinking, okay, maybe there's something here, but where do I even start? What are the practical steps? Does Swisher offer guidance?
He does. And they're not about needing a huge budget or tech team right away. He suggests starting small, starting with observation and connection.
Okay, like what?
First, he says, identify who is already engaging in your own circles. Talk to the younger people you know, kids, grandkids, youth group members who are already on Roblox, Minecraft, maybe using VR for school or training. Ask them about it. Ask how their faith connects or doesn't connect with their life in those spaces.
Just listen and learn from them.
Exactly. Second, visit a metaverse church. You really have to experience it before forming a solid opinion. Go check out places like Lakeland Church, VR MMO Church, or that Cornerstone Church in Yuba City. Just attend a service. Observe. Ask yourself, why is this appealing and real to the people here?
Experience it before judging it. Makes sense.
Yeah. And third, explore digital discipleship on a small scale. Maybe try hosting an experimental small group online, or a Bible study, or a mentoring session. Use Zoom or whatever platform works for members who are already disconnected physically. Maybe they're homebound, traveling, deployed.
So leveraging tools we already have to connect differently.
Precisely. It's about meeting people where they are, even if that where is digital.
And if people want to go deeper, find more practical strategies.
Jeff Reed's book, VR in the Metaverse Church, is a great next step. It builds on the kind of foundational thinking David Swisher provides.
Good resource. Okay.
Ultimately, the church faces a choice with this whole digital revolution, doesn't it? Ignore it, reject it outright, or figure out how to engage with it faithfully.
And God's presence isn't limited by the platform.
Not according to Scripture. Psalm 139 asks, "Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence?" The answer is nowhere. God is everywhere, even presumably in cyberspace. So the real question isn't, can God work there?
It's will his people be there?
Exactly. Will we be there to meet the people? He might already be drawing in those spaces.
So a final thought for our listeners to maybe chew on.
I guess it's this. If presence in Christ, if ecclesia, is fundamentally about engagement, connection, participation of the spiritual body, then what kind of barriers are we potentially creating if we insist only on physical location when millions are searching for truth and community in these virtual worlds?
That's a challenging question.
It is. But those who start thinking about it now, who prepare with wisdom, they're the ones who will likely equip the next generation to navigate these spaces and lead the mission effectively in this unfolding digital age.